On today's episode of Sounds Gouda, we preview the Packers' remaining schedule and project the win-loss total for the remainder of the regular season. Do the Packers still have a chance at the playoffs and division? We will tell you.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Gouda. My name is Jordan Olson and I am your host for today's episode. Rob Ralph, my co-host, is off spending some time with his family and really glad he's able to go and do that. So thank you for being here to any new and returning listeners. We are always excited to be talking Packers football with you, even on the weeks that they might be struggling a little bit. But just remember, we have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. So we've also unlocked Super Chat, Super Stickers, and Super Thanks, which is just another way you can interact with us and support our channel. We really appreciate it. So won't spend a lot of time on this, but just going to kind of wrap up the Eagles game to look at the PFF grades for the game and see what we can glean or take away from that. So let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, starting with the Packers offensive side of the football. Just a quick review of the top five. Zach Tom had a 72 overall grade. Rasheed Walker, 71.2. Dontavian Wicks, 69.4. Jordan Love, 68.4. And Christian Watson, that's 67.3. All pretty well above average grades. Bottom five, starting from the bottom, Aaron Banks had a really poor game. Anybody that's watched film a little bit, I think, can see that, but he had a 43.2 overall grade. John Fitzpatrick had 48.1. Jordan Morgan, 51.7. Malik Heath, 52.3 grade. And Romeo Doubs, according to PFF, had a 53.3 grade. So just some overall kind of higher level observations. I'll start right away with Jordan Love, the quarterback. You know, I think the eye test would tell us that Jordan didn't really have his best game, arguably his worst game of the season so far. Still comes out at nearly a 70 grade according to PFF. I'd be really interested, what kind of all they put into that grading. You had the very costly turnover in the red zone. For that alone, I think should be dinged a little bit more significantly than this. We've been talking about this. I don't think the blame is all on Jordan Love. I don't think it's all on Matt LaFleur. His supporting cast has kind of disappointed him a little bit, particularly in this Eagles game. The offensive line play has been rough, and that's demonstrated here in these grades. So just kind of an interesting note overall on Jordan Love's grade. The two bookend tackles, Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker, they had pretty good games. So where did all that pressure come from? Looks like it came from Aaron Banks and Jordan Morgan's side of the ball. Elton Jenkins and Sean Ryan kind of graded out pretty equal, and I guess that's just my other offensive observation of note. My eye test that said that Sean Ryan came into the game and played pretty decent. I thought they generated a little bit more push in the run game once he entered. So he's going to be the center moving forward for a significant period of time here. So hopefully he can continue to be an above or average center in this league. And if he does, we'll probably be okay on the offensive line, bearing another significant injury. So switching over to the defensive side of the ball now. So top five, Baron Sorrell, limited snaps, 84.8 grade. Carrington Valentine, I commented in the post game. I thought that he had an outstanding performance, 79.4 overall grade. Really just got dinged in the tackling department. I think that one big missed tackle that led to that big Saquon Barkley gainer probably is the most significant kind of ding on his grade here. Xavier McKinney with a 67.5, Javon Bullard 66.9, and Micah Parsons with a 64.5. Bottom five, Warren Brinson, really bad grade. In 9 snaps, but 29.9. Devontae Wyatt, 33.6. Nazir Stackhouse, 43.7. Rashawn Gary, 45.5, and Isaiah McDuffie, 47.4. So a little surprised, kind of like high grade on Jordan Love. A little surprised that Devontae Wyatt's grade is so poor in this game. Have to watch a little bit more of the tape, but I thought that he had a decent game. Looks like they graded him pretty poorly against the run. Obviously, we know him to be a little bit more of a pass rusher. But I mean, I didn't think it was bad. Overall, this was actually a really good defensive performance, I thought. From a collective standpoint, you see that Quay Walker had a 53.4 and Edgerrin Cooper had a 47.9 grade. Isaiah McDuffie, 47.4. So PFF did not like the Packers linebacker play here. I think that's mostly related to coverage. If you go over and you look at that statistics, Quay Walker gave up 67 yards on 5 receptions. Edgerrin Cooper, 29 yards on 3 receptions. And Isaiah McDuffie also gave up an 8-yard pass. So graded up pretty poorly against the pass in this game. And I think that's kind of the big knocks there. I mean, overall, I thought Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker had really solid games. Again, a little surprised to kind of see them having some below average grades for this game. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time here. I'm just kind of wanted to touch base like we do every week on these PFF grades and just give some high level observations. So we are going to jump over to the Packers schedule now. Okay, so kind of getting to the main feature of the show is we're going to take a close look at the remaining schedule for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to kind of give you a win-loss projection for each of those games, tell you kind of how that impacts their playoff chances, chance to win the division, and kind of see how that might impact the future of some highly contested hot seat individuals like Matt LaFleur at this point in time. So we've got Vegas odds for the next 2 games on the schedule. And we travel to MetLife, play the Giants next Sunday, this coming Sunday. And the Packers are 7-point favorites at this point in time. So the Giants are a sputtering team. They just got a new coach. That causes me some concern that probably have some unscouted looks. We don't know the status of Jackson Dart. Cam Scatteraboo was a big loss for them. I feel like that kind of took the wind out of their sails as they were kind of ascending with some young players there. And obviously Malik Neighbors, their best pass catcher, is gone. So I really don't see the Giants outscoring the Packers in this game, especially with the way the defense has been performing. Going to kind of curve my enthusiasm about the offense kind of moving forward until the Packers prove me otherwise. I still think that the Packers are a superior opponent. I think that they go ahead and get it done in New York. They've got to. I mean, I think their backs are kind of against the wall in a win now game. And I think the rest of the schedule, the way I go through, is going to demonstrate that. But I really hope to see some urgency from this Packers squad. I'm going to predict something like a 20-10 victory. Packers cover the spread on Sunday and kind of hopefully start to get going back on the winning ways moving forward here. Jumping into the next game against the Minnesota Vikings. Packers are projected right now without, seeing the next contest, any injuries, etc., to be 6.5-point favorites at home against the Minnesota Vikings. Kind of hard to tell with the trajectory of this Vikings team at this point in time. I still think the Packers have the better roster. I think that they have more talent on both sides of the ball. Really like Kevin O'Connell. He's a really good coach. Have to see kind of how J.J. McCarthy gets settled in here with a little bit more experience. Maybe when we get to next week, and we have that Vikings preview, maybe I'll change my prediction slightly. But right now, I am also calling for a Packers victory against the Vikings, looking something like a 21-17 victory. I don't think they cover the spread in that game. I think the Vikings, if they've got something left to prove, are going to want to get it done against the Green Bay Packers that week. So I'm going to go ahead and throw another win in the column for them in that game. All right. Get to the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to be completely honest, feeling like a lot of you right now. That game feels like a pretty tall task. The Lions seem to be clicking and humming on all cylinders right now. And unless this offense makes significant improvements over the next couple weeks here, I just don't see a way to kind of get this done. I don't know that they go out and get completely embarrassed on national television. I still think that there's a lot of fight in this team. You saw that with the Eagles. But I'm going to give the Packers a loss, maybe like a 31-21 kind of loss on the road on Thanksgiving. The Lions are going to want revenge from that week 1 game where the Packers kind of humiliated them. Definitely not the brand of football the Lions want to play. So going to unfortunately throw a loss in there for that game. So yeah, like I said, I put an L in there for the Packers against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, unfortunately. Get to the first divisional matchup against the Bears this season. I kind of think that, the Bears, they're a little bit of a scary team right now. I think that they've got some confidence moving forward. I think that they're going to come out, they're going to try to stick it to the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, there's a long-standing rivalry there, and they're certainly not going to roll over, having some momentum likely going into this game at this point of the season. But I think the Packers still are the better team. I think because it's a home game, I'm going to give the advantage to the Green Bay Packers, even though that's going to be a little bit more challenging. I'm predicting something like a 21-20 or 24-21 game victory for the Packers against the Chicago Bears. Throw a W in the column there. All right. Get to the Denver Broncos game. That's going to be, I think, a pretty anticipated matchup. I think a lot of people are kind of curious about what this Denver Broncos team is and what it looks like right now. Great coach, trying to figure out what Bo Nix is. Great defense. I was a little worried about the Denver Broncos game kind of going into the beginning of the year and kind of looking at the schedule. I think that the Packers find a way to win that game. I mean, they kind of almost need to win out or get close to winning out the rest of the way to have a chance to sneak into the playoffs. And I'll talk a little bit about what I expect about some of the other conference opponents. But they go on the road to Denver, in my opinion, and they get a W. Okay. Coming to our second matchup against the Chicago Bears. I kind of thought that they might split this series at the beginning of the season. I'm going to go ahead and say that Ben Johnson, he's an outstanding coach. I think he's going to scheme up a lot of stuff. He's going to give that Packer defense and Jeff Hafley some fits the second time they see them. I'm going to go ahead and give the Packers a loss in this game on the road at Soldier Field. And the Packers at this point in time of the remainder of the way would be 4-2 at this point in time. All right, moving forward to a late and probably very heavily anticipated matchup preseason and, currently as it stands, but that Baltimore Ravens game is getting a whole lot more interesting after the Ravens really kind of spittered and sputtered throughout the beginning part of the season. They look like they have an advantage in their schedule moving forward. That's a really good team. They've got some really good players. I think that the Packers are better than the Ravens in terms of their offense being able to put up points, but that Ravens defense seems like it's starting to get things together. And that's a long ways from now. So we're really going to have to kind of project forward. I do think the Packers potentially drop that game at home at Lambeau. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give that something like a 17-27 loss against the Baltimore Ravens. I get to the last game of the season, and we've got the Minnesota Vikings. I think that the Minnesota Vikings will have kind of found themselves down and out in this division, probably in 4th place at this point in time. Maybe Kevin O'Connell will prove me wrong. Like I said, I think he is a great coach. But I think that the Vikings will have a lot less to play for than the Packers. And really, when it comes down to it, it's about which team needs it the most. With the Packers trying to win to ensure that they get into the playoffs, potentially have a chance to win the division depending on what happens with the Lions. I think the Packers find a way to win that game against the Vikings to the tune of 27-20. Um, that's kind of what I'm looking at as I project the win-loss total moving forward. So here's some notes. So they sit at 5-3-1 currently. I have them projected to go 3-2 the rest of the way in the division based on the exercise I just did, which that puts them 4-2 overall in the division on the season, getting that early victory in week 1 against the Lions. How do I think that projects out? That makes them a 10-6-1 team, which I certainly think the Lions are going to have 11, 12, 13 wins. That means we're not winning this division this year unless we get a lot of help from some other teams beating the Lions as we go down the stretch. Maybe they have some key injuries. Maybe they're just not clicking on all levels. So kind of what does that mean for the bigger picture of things? As I look through things, I kind of have the Packers factored into the 7 seed at that point in time. And like, oh, 10 wins, certainly a wild card team. But as I kind of look and break things down, I went through all the schedules. I kind of projected out. I project the Eagles to go 6-2 the rest of the way. That makes them 13-4. They'll hold the tiebreaker over the Rams, which I think is important because I also think the Rams may go 13-4 on the season and finish 6-2 the rest of the way. I think the Lions also finish 6-2 the rest of the way. That makes them 12-5. Division winners, they will be the 3 seed, and they hold the tiebreaker over the Bucs, which is important because I project they go 6-2 the rest of the way. The Bucs have a fairly easy schedule moving forward if they can get healthy. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for them to win those games. So they are a 12-5 team and the 4 seed because the Lions hold that head-to-head matchup tie. Seahawks right now, which are number 1 in the conference, I project them to finish the season as the 5th seed in the NFC. Rams kind of overtake them as things go along. Seahawks finish 5-3 the rest of the way and also have a 12-5 record. But due to those tiebreakers and some of the, obviously the divisional winners will get the seeds 1-4. Seahawks are going to be a tough 5 seed. The 49ers continue to find ways to win. I trust Kyle Shanahan. He's a genius. I have the 49ers projected as the 6th seed, going 5-2 the rest of the way, 11-6 overall. And that leaves us with the Green Bay Packers finishing 5-3 on the season, 10-6-1 overall. And now we really see the impact of not being able to get it done against the Carolina Panthers or the Cleveland Browns at this point in time. The Eagles game, it would have certainly winnable if they would have generated any more offense, would have gotten it done, and we'd be looking at a completely different outcome in this exercise. But the Packers really do have their backs against the wall and are going to need to win a lot of football games moving forward to find themselves in that race. So how does that play out then for matchups? The Eagles will get a week 1 bye on Wild Card Weekend. The Packers will travel to LA to face the Rams, which actually, if you got to go on the road anywhere, Matt LaFleur has an excellent track record against Sean McVay and these LA Rams. So I don't mind going out there to try to get that done, but the Packers are going to have a lot to prove. The Lions will host the 49ers and the Bucs will host the Seahawks. And that would be an excellent slate of wild card games. Lots of good teams in this loaded NFC this year. So what does this mean for Matt LaFleur? A lot of people obviously calling for his job, calling for him to relinquish his play calling duties. Will making the playoffs and be a 7 seed be enough to save his job? I think so. I really do. I think he's got enough credit built up with this organization. At that point in time, clearly won a lot of games. He will have not lost the locker room. I think he may need to win a playoff game too. And show they're not just a regular season team, but they can go ahead, they can win a playoff game, and kind of project into next season that they're still a contender, maybe making some modifications and getting a little bit luckier on some of the breaks in some of these games. So, another thing you need to look at there is for the Packers to win this division, it's going to look something like the Lions going 4-4 the rest of the way. That's going to require the Packers to beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, plus getting probably at least another upset from a game the Lions will be favored in. So going to take a lot of work to win the division. I think that's a pretty long shot at this point in time. Other things to kind of save Matt LaFleur's job, he's going to need to rework this offense and have an offensive evolution. I'm not saying that they need to score 30 points a game, but he's going to show that they can be consistent disciplined, and consistently score more than 20 points against these opponents to give this defense a chance to win these games. You know, when it's all said and done, policy may need to consider if Matt LaFleur is the best option. The way Jeff Hafley's coaching right now, you know, maybe we've got our next head coach as an in-house option. He's going to be a hot head coaching candidate, somebody that somebody's certainly going to take a long, hard look at. So maybe he becomes the next head coach of the Green Bay Packers. They find a new and exciting offensive coordinator and definitely a new special teams coordinator that there won't be such heavy allegiances with. And you take this core on offense and core on defense, and you still have that 2-year window kind of moving forward to see if you can get into the Super Bowl and win a championship. Those are my thoughts for today, folks. Kind of fun. Go ahead, put in the comments. Let me know what you think the Packers are going to finish the rest of the way. Will they finish above 500? Will they make the playoffs? Do they have any shot at this division? I would love to hear your takes. And I'd love to hear also what you think Matt LaFleur needs to do to save his job. I know a lot of you probably don't want that. I still hope that he proves that he's the right guy in Green Bay, but there has to be accountability. If he loses his team and can't get it done, we got to do what's best for the Green Bay Packers overall. So that being said, more great Packers content every week on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday from Sounds Gouda. I want to thank you for listening. Please make sure to share this with your family, friends, and other Packers fans. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, comment, like, let us know what you think. But connect with us at X. Rob's at Sounds Gouda with 3 A's, and I'm at Olson Jord. But until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack Go.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better.